Access granted.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Full Force Redacted. I am Christopher McLeod, aka Diagnostic 80, and joining me today to chat about his incredible photography on all those amazing G.I. Joe classified promo images is Matthew Cohen, aka Shooting the Galaxy. Hey bud, how are you doing? Great to have you on.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've been really looking forward to this. It's definitely been a long time coming.
It's been ages coming. I'm so happy we're finally here and talking to you. I feel like I've been saying in like all of the Newsburst lives and everything, whenever people say, oh, when are you talking to Matt? When are you talking to Shooting the Galaxy? I'm like, yeah, we're kind of, it's in the process. It's going to get done. And now...
To be fair, it also took you a little time to reach out to me initially.
Oh, yes, it did. It took me a long time to get that email out. I remember you being in the chat, I think it was before the Dragonfly, but I remember specifically in the Dragonfly, we were talking about your images for the Dragonfly, and you were in the chat, and we were like, right, we're going to have to set this up. It took me a couple of months before I actually properly reached out. So, yeah, that is on me. But, mate, so happy to have you on the show finally. How's everything going? How you doing?
It's going great. It's Friday, so always a good day in the week. Getting ready to start again next week. Yeah, everything's awesome right now.
Brilliant, mate. Well, let's get stuck into what we're here for today, the nitty gritty of everything. Now, like as I said, this has been a long time in coming, but ever since the promo images were advertised as your specific work, I've wanted to pick your brain regarding so much of it. Before we get into that, though, let's get some background on you. How did you get into this line of work?
So it started as a hobby. I was originally in school for nursing because I was working at a hospital, changed to hospitality management because I have a thing with needles, and I was like, I'm not going to make for a great nurse at this point. I'm just imagining myself drawing blood with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
So while I was in school for hospitality management, because I do enjoy cooking and like the service industry and that customer service aspect, I started getting into photography because my fiance had gifted herself a camera for her birthday, and I was looking for something, another thing that we could do together.
Yeah.
And around the same time, she had surprised me with some action figures, or an action figure, which kind of reignited my collecting drive because I really hadn't been buying toys or anything.
What was it? What was the first figure that?
It was a Black Series First Order Stormtrooper.
Nice.
Which, because I really liked the design of those, and I had seen Hasbro had launched, I think it was probably SDCC, I don't know, 2013, 2014. They had the collector's box packed, the collector's packaging version of that, and I thought it was really cool. And so she bought me the regular version because that's all she was able to get her hands on. And that kind of started me buying more toys. And I was like getting almost buyer's remorse because I'm like, what am I gonna do, with these toys? It's like, am I gonna put them on my shelf? Am I gonna put them in storage with the rest of my childhood toys that I hadn't really looked at in a while? And then I discovered the toy collecting community and the Instagram toy photography community, and I was like, this is cool. People showing off their collections, people doing diorama photography, and so it started with me just kind of using my cell phone to take really bad pictures on my kitchen table of like my Star Wars action figures.
I can't imagine for a second, after seeing your work for the last however many years, I can't imagine anything that you do photography-wise being bad. I know we all start at some point. I know that. I get that. I mean, if you listen to probably like some of the early episodes of this show or like the early videos, you probably go, yeah, it's improved a little bit. Or you might not think that at all. But like, I can't imagine you for a second taking a bad picture, even if it's with a phone.
They were bad.
You're gonna have to send me some so I can put them on screen and be like, you too can be an amazing photographer.
I still have them there. I'll send them to you after this.
Brilliant. That'd be amazing, dude. Seriously.
But so that's pretty much it. It just snowballed from there. She bought a camera. I had my dad's like point and shoot.
Okay.
Kinda, and like she had a plastic tripod, so I upgraded from my phone to like the stuff that we had in the house. And then when she started getting more into photography on her end, I went and bought myself like kind of a entry-level DSLR.
Okay.
And still have it, still use it on occasion. It was honestly,
cool.
it was my camera, like straight from, like the only camera that I really ever bought myself. It was that. And now working here, we have our staff cameras. So
right.
I've
got a lot of questions about the in-house sort of situation as well, because that's something I think we'll get stuck into as well. But how much like equipment do you use, and how many kind of cameras are at your disposal in terms of like the stuff you're specifically doing?
Oh my God, we have so much stuff, so much more stuff than I could ever get my hands on my own. And especially at such a fast rate. We just got some like yearly we try to add more stuff, so we just got some really fun goodies. The probe lens, I'm sure you've seen people in the toy photography community have been using a bit.
Right.
I use that in a few shoots recently. Just whatever fun toys. It's like, oh, this will make our lives easier. This will let us do something really cool. We try to just go out of our way to get our hands on renting or buying, and just building everything up.
That's great. And you don't have to pay for it, so that's even better. But like prior to actually working on the brand, were you a fan of G.I. Joe? Like, was G.I. Joe like a big thing for you?
I am definitely more of a casual G.I. Joe fan. I grew up playing with G.I. Joe as a kid. I have a very strong memory. In kindergarten class, we had playtime, and playtime was kind of assigned by group. And I remember really clearly how it worked, because you had the first group was kind of dolls and action figures. The second group was like building blocks. The third group was
heavy weapons, bladed weapons.
Heavy weapons, bladed weapons, exactly. And so
what's funny about that is that we've done that twice, and I've said the same joke twice, but the audience will never know.
I know, and it still
hilarious.
Works. So the action figure section was literally, it was a bin of G.I. Joe and nothing but G.I. Joe. And of course, it's kindergarten, so all the accessories are gone. It's just it's G.I. Joes with broken thumbs and no accessories. So that's my
not a crotch in sight, probably. I'd imagine.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. So that's my big memory of G.I. Joe. I also, I have my own personal collection. I was actually just recently looking up some of the ships and vehicles that I had when I was a kid. I can't remember it now, which one it was off of the top of my head, but I just remember having, it was a space vehicle that had a rubber cone nose. It was white, and I think they did a red version of it for Cobra, possibly, like a repaint of it.
It's called the Stiletto.
Yes, that one. That one I always remember because of the nose, because I would like dive bomb it onto the floor as a kid. So yeah, kind of a more casual G.I. Joe fan, but watched the cartoon growing up, had the toys. It's definitely like a core memory for me.
Brilliant. And just a bit of inside baseball. Are you at Hasbro right now? Is that the one of the rooms that you operate in? Yeah.
So this is my personal like studio section in our studio. I've just been kind of cleaning it before.
Taking all of the NDA possible breaks.
Pushing it off to the side.
There's just a pile of 2025 over here, kind of thing. That's amazing. Just out of interest. Well, I'll ask that question when we get to it, but it kind of relates to what we're talking about there, jokingly. But before we get to that, let's talk about continuing with your background. How did the Hasbro job specifically come about for you?
So when I realized that people were making money doing this, essentially, that it was a career,
right?
Because I realized that the pictures on the back of packaging, like somebody took those, the pictures, the advertisements that you see on social media or in magazines when we were growing up, which I miss all of that.
So much,
like somebody took those photos. So I, knowing that Hasbro really does have 99% of the brands that I grew up with, it became
they
a goal.
Do.
Yeah, they do. It became a goal to work here and like turn this into a career. That's so amazing. it was like I was still going through school, but school was at this point kind of becoming my plan B in case this didn't work out. So I just remember one October, I would periodically check like the careers part of the website. And 1 October, there was back in 22, there was an advertisement for a photographer, and I just I wasn't even going to reply because it's like, oh, I've only been doing this for like a few years.
Imposter syndrome came flooding in, and
in my head, I'm imagining I'm going up against people with like doctorates in photography and stuff like that, So my fiance, thankfully, was like, there were some things that I didn't quite qualify for. It was, and in hindsight, it's stuff that you can be trained on, and I have been trained on, but I was definitely like, no, what's the point?
Right.
And my fiance pushed me. She was like, just apply. What's
brilliant?
The worst that can happen?
Good on her. Good on her.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I remember like HR reaching out for the first interview, which it took a little bit of time. I had not really forgotten, but I figured like I'm not going to hear back from them. And then I get an email in my inbox from HR setting up the first interview, and it just kept progressing. And I'm like, is this actually happening? Like, could this actually happen, all the way up to like getting the job offer?
Is it like American Gladiators? You kind of get, not American Gladiators, the one where you could do the big assault course. You get to another thing that's in your way, and you manage to do it. And you're like, wow, I didn't think I'd be able to do that, and now I've got to climb this bloody great big wall in front of me.
Exactly. And it was scary in that sense, because I moved from New York to here in Rhode Island for the job, and it was like, I had never lived. I traveled, but I'd never lived outside of New York. We had spoken about doing it, but speaking about doing it, and all of a sudden having to pack up within a month and move a few states over is a different experience.
It's a big decision. It's got to be worth it. And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's just been. Yeah, it's been awesome. You have your days where it's like something's not working out, and you're frustrated, and it's just like you have your bad days, but at the same time, your bad days still involve having a bad day playing with toys.
Right.
And I remember my boss telling me that like there was just something just wasn't working out. I was just really frustrated, and she was just like, Matt, we're not doing brain surgery here.
Right.
No one's gonna die if you mess this up. You're playing with toys.
Yeah, that is so true. It's not like you're doing some sort of really crazy heart transplant or something like that. No.
Yeah.
I'm literally just posing Duke here, and he won't stay upright for some reason.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. That's awesome, man. So how long have you been at Hasbro now? How long has it been?
It'll actually be 3 years in January.
Wow.
Yeah,
and
it really flies.
What was the first thing you worked on with when you got there? What was the first kind of like proper thing that you had done that got out there?
For in general?
In general first, yeah. We'll start in general, yeah.
Let me see. I remember the first day I was helping with like posing on different brands. I think it might have been like Star Wars at one point or something like that.
Makes sense.
Helping a photographer with that was working on something, because it takes some time to get like, go through all your training and both like company wide and specific area. Yeah. But it was just like, but I just remember like couldn't wait to get into it. So I was always like, can I play with that? Can I just fix that? So I don't actually remember like what my first proper. I remember my first G.I. Joe shoot specifically was the Viper 3-pack. It was like the officer and the two regular Vipers. So that was my first G.I. Joe one. Yeah,
the Viper 3-pack. That's really cool. I remember that specifically being one of the first things. At least I was started to be aware of you as a person at Hasbro doing this. Like that was one of the kind of first things I think you posted it on like Twitter to say like, here was a couple of images and stuff. And that was the first kind of awareness that I had of you doing stuff on the Joe brand, doing stuff for Hasbro and stuff. So that was really cool. And then obviously from that point on, it was just an absolute waterfall of G.I. Joe product images. I mean, it was unreal at that point. You were doing loads.
That started off because my manager had pulled his back right before it was like shortly after I started and right before he was supposed to shoot those, because
no way.
Corey, who you guys would have seen on the
Yeah,
I believe the
videos.
PulseCon video.
Yes.
Yeah, so he was supposed to shoot it, and he pulled his back or something like that. So he went home, and they were like, "All right, let Matt do it," and that kind of just like basically stole it from him, I guess.
Yeah.
He was more or less the one shooting most of it before, and even before I started, like the it's still good stuff. It's great stuff.
His name
work.
His name would pop up quite often in the live streams. Corey was mentioned as the photographer in those live streams. So yeah.
Oh, all right, cool. I'm glad that it's not just me that was that's getting the shout outs. I wasn't sure if people were aware that he was a photographer before me, essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I basically stole it from him. So now he'll cover for me if I am out for some reason, or if I'm busy with a different job and can't do it.
Yeah. How much on a day-to-day basis? I mean, how much are you doing? Is it, I imagine a lot of dio building involved? Is it like how far in the future are you working as well? Like how much are you having to do in advance?
It's getting
and like tell us everything that you're working on.
It really varies so much. There are times where we could be shooting something like a week before it premieres, and there are times where we manage to get it shot months in advance. So it really just depends on the sample side of things, of when samples are ready and in good condition to be shot.
Awesome. And how amazing is it to work on stuff that people haven't seen and won't see for like a couple of months or a couple of weeks or whatever?
It's awesome because coming from this as a hobby, which I still go home and shoot, not as often, and not because I don't enjoy doing it on my own, but it's because, I love doing this at time. But at the same time, you go home and it's like, unless I'm really inspired to specifically do something, it's like, all right, I've been shooting all day. Let me play some video games or something, But I still do shoot whenever I have inspiration at home. And, in those situations, it's my photography. I can just post it up. I'm like, this is awesome. Let me show everybody. And here, when I'm shooting something, it's like, I got to wait like a few months for people to see that one. It's so cool.
Have you, I don't think I've ever known this to happen, but have you ever accidentally released anything too early?
No, I'm not. No.
Let's just say no on that one. But I was thinking more in the case like how like you might have a few on your phone ready to go for a social post in the future or something, or do you wait until fully well that that's revealed and then
we wait? So we have I'm pretty sure it's just our own personal policy of like we wait until it's up. That's definitely policy, but we get it from the official post, so I don't have like like my photo that I took set there. It's okay. Pulse posted it. Now I can get it off of Pulse and share it, and then that eliminates the chance of that ever happening.
That's a really
aside from I'm sure it just
that's the best technique you could have put. You'd probably give anybody working at Hasbro right there. I think it's just don't save anything ever on your phone. Just wait until it's there and then download it off Pulse. Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. And also it must be pretty cool to see the reaction from fans, especially like well, we're always absolutely gushing over your stuff. I mean, every time we do a reveal or like a reaction to like the new product out, the amount of times I've gone, okay, the render was cool, but now we're seeing it in hand and we're seeing it on these beautiful promo images. And I will always shout you out on those because they are always phenomenal. Do you ever get people messaging you and saying like, I was on the fence before and now like seeing the promo images, I'm definitely going to get it? Have you ever had that before? Because we see it a lot in the comments.
I don't remember if I've ever gotten a private message or something.
Right.
But I do see it in the comments, and I do save them and send them to my boss and be like,
oh, that's awesome.
But I notice that I read the comments. I always appreciate the feedback. And even if it's critical of something, like I try to look at it and be like, all right, what could I do differently? Like, okay, maybe they have a point in whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So I pay attention to the comments also because I am a toy collector. I am a fan. I'm excited to see reveals that I didn't know about, on whatever it might be, and just see my team and my coworkers also just doing their thing. It's fun to be part of the community.
Absolutely. And like I said, the community, especially the one that we've cultivated, like with the full force and everything, there's a real positive reaction to the promo images every single time. It's one of my favorite things. I mean, does it bother you at all that, you know, there'll often be like leaks of stuff, like usually the night before or the day before? Does that kind of stuff bother you and you guys there, or are you just happy to see the reaction from people if they do get out early?
I mean, I could only speak for myself on that. It's definitely, it's more of a surprise to be like, oh, okay, that was not now supposed to be now,
yeah.
You know. But it does kind of like irk me because most of the time it'll be like these low resolution pixelated images
from an angle, from a TV screen,
and
from 6 miles away.
And it's like, can't you just wait for the high res ones to go up so you can? The questions that everyone is speculating on is because
it's really grainy.
The detail is 2 by 2 pixels, and wait, and you'll have your, you'll have the answer.
Semi-answer, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I figured that would be the thing for you. It would be the quality of the stuff that's going out there early that, you know, kind of was the worst part. And that, I mean, that's the thing. You're spending hours, days, weeks on some of these shoots. Like, you want people to see it in the way that you've intended and poured your blooming, you know, heart and soul into. So I can see that definitely. The other thing I wanted to kind of discuss with you is, would you be able to kind of take us like through a step-by-step process of what happens when, you know, a new figure's coming, they want you to do a shoot for it. Like, are you working closely with the brand teams on this kind of stuff? Is it like, how much direction are you getting to how much are you just left to your own devices? Are they giving you options for like locations? Take us through that step-by-step process and also that details that go into that, please.
It's a big team effort.
Yeah.
So we have part of the photo studio. We have our other photographers, but we also have our production team, and they're essentially the kind of, you know, like the thankless job in a sense behind the scenes. No one really knows about them necessarily, and they set up a meeting with the brand and myself. They're almost like our agents in that way.
Yeah.
And we have a meeting, usually maybe a week in advance of when the shoot is, to keep it fresh, because otherwise, if it's like a month ahead, I'm going to be messaging everyone, what were we supposed to do again? You know?
Yeah.
So it'll be with Lenny, with Emily, with BMAC, and we're just going over, and others, whoever's, available or signed for that for whatever reason. And we just go over, okay, so here's what's coming. Here's kind of some story or background. Here's what we were thinking as far as the diorama scene goes. But then it's also like, okay, we would all love to be able to give 6 different figures their own individual diorama, but we have a week maybe to shoot all of this. So there isn't time to do that because it can take a day to build and light and set up, and then around that to break down and switch over to something else. So we try to optimize it and figure out, okay, what scene can work for all or most, so we can kind of reduce that. When there's time, or when something really just like it doesn't make sense for this figure to be here,
right?
We figure out how to really like, all right, so we need to do another diorama for this, and maybe it won't be as complex because it's just for maybe one figure.
Right.
So we have our pre-production meeting essentially, and after that we have dates already on the calendar of it's like, all right, we're going to shoot during this time, and during the actual shoot, usually like these days everything's on Teams, so everything's virtual. So we just have like a job chat going, dropping pictures in to be like, hey, how's this looking? Sometimes when they're in the building, they'll stop by to check things out, because they also like Lenny loves coming to see the diorama, and just see the scene.
I'd be the same. I would genuinely be the same. I'd be like, I'll be there in 12 seconds.
yeah. So and also just to offer support, because sometimes it's like it's not immediately obvious. Oh, what is this accessory for, or how does this work, or how do you want me to show this off?
Yeah.
Or I'd be like, hey, I think I lost something. Can you bring me another one? Something that'll happen on a near regular basis is you'll drop a tiny accessory. It'll go into the void. You cannot find it until the next job when you drop a tiny accessory and you're looking for that one and you find the one from the last job. You won't find that one until the next job. That happens on a regular basis.
That's amazing.
So I just have like this little pile of just little accessories. It's like, oh, there it is, there it is, there it is. But
that's too funny, man.
Yeah.
How many materials must you guys have to choose from? Do you have to go out and like pick stuff up constantly, or is it like a case of having like a huge amount of things on hand in order to create what you need to create diorama wise? So
we have they've shown this off occasionally on other videos like Pulse videos and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a huge wall right outside of the photo studio that's just like a Home Depot kind of. Well, I don't mean to say it's like a big area like that. I mean, it's one of those giant warehouse walls,
like a rack, just Yeah, that's awesome.
And then we have an upstairs with even more. We have some like the stuff that we use a lot of. I kind of just keep in here so I don't have to keep running outside and bringing it in. And yeah, when we need more stuff, we will go out and buy. But at this point, because the photo studio has been doing this for that long.
Yeah,
there's just like, it's not super uncommon to look at an old toy commercial from something from like the 90s and be like, that piece looks familiar.
That's awesome.
Possibly still on the rack somewhere. Not all of it. We don't keep everything. Yeah. But, so once in a while, it's like just something cool that just gets reused like that.
That's
like
awesome.
There's this one piece that's kind of a hilly green landscape, and you turn it around on the bottom. It was clearly an aircraft carrier at some point in time from like a decade ago.
Yeah.
Who knows which specific shoot from like 10, 15 years ago, they painted that part for it. And then they were like, I need a base for this hilly landscape. And they just grabbed that, turned it over, and then built on top of it.
That's nuts. That's so crazy. I mean, I'd love to see you guys are like actually working on this stuff. I think it'd be so awesome. And we did kind of get to see a little bit of that at PulseCon when you guys had to then scramble to make a Dreadnought diorama zombie thing, which came out amazing, by the way. That was so cool. But that almost like your description there of like how you guys have all these different parts and pieces, I can see that now, you guys going over there and grabbing everything and like putting it together to make the Dreadnoughts setup. So that's really, really cool. Yeah, that's so awesome. And again, like how long does it usually take you guys to complete a shoot for, say, let's say like a Retail Wave of 4 situation where, like you say, you're doing a dio for multiple figures? How long did it, like, for example, how long did that Raptor diorama with the kind of cliffs and sky and everything, how long did that take to kind of put together?
Oh man, I don't remember. it's because that was not a long time ago, but long enough that there's been so many things in between.
Yeah.
That it's like in general we try to like average a week for whatever shoot, how many things it is, and then how many items, and then just kind of figure out how to make it work.
Right.
In terms of how complex the build can be and whatnot. I always try to push it like just as much as I can into the time, and sometimes we extend an extra day or two, whatever we would need, but usually, excuse me, it's about a week on average.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you ever have to like build specific things that you don't have on hand, and like does that kind of happen quite often, or do you tend to really have everything you need at hand at the moment?
It doesn't happen too often because of the sheer amount of stuff that we have. We
Right.
try to have like build days where we'll just take a day to just build pieces that we can imagine needing that might work across different brands and whatnot.
Yeah.
But like builds can take a lot of time out of the photo shoot. So it really depends on what the situation is and like how, like, you know, if it's like a really specific item that needs extra attention, and it's like, okay, yeah, here's a budget for supplies if you need to build something unique and the time. But for the most part, it's just like making things work with what we have.
Yeah. And in terms of like how much say do like the brand teams have on like layout choices and actually the images that you're taking, is that really more a case of you're the expert here, you do what you do, and then we'll maybe have some suggestions after the fact, or is it like, do they give you a lot of direction there?
It's a relationship. They usually come with their ideas, and it's just like, okay.
Then you ignore those, and then
I ignore those and do my own thing. It's really give and take there, because like Lenny is like, you know, he's the G.I. Joe expert, so he'll come and be like, you know, this XYZ, this is the story, this is what happened, you know, in the cartoon or in the comics, and this would be really cool if we incorporate it, and then it goes from there. Usually, then it's me kind of spontaneously building onto that, of just being like, all right, what else, like, you know. But it's really like kind of even of just like back and forth during those pre-production meetings, or spontaneously live during the shoot.
Yeah. So it's not like one thing. It's like a mixture of many different things. That's awesome. That's really cool. It's nice to know and get this kind of insight genuinely, because like it's one of the things I really enjoy about talking to Lenny and Tony and even Emily, like when they're talking about some of the things that are like part of the process that go into this stuff, is sometimes more interesting than the product that comes out at the end of it, which obviously is always the thing that we all care about and want to have in hand and enjoy. But like, I don't know, I just get quite a kick out of hearing about all this kind of like behind the scenes stuff. Speaking of that, Easter eggs. This is one of the things I think has really like lit a fire under the fandom. I think people really enjoy these little kind of moments where you will drop in a specific little kind of background teaser for maybe another character that isn't revealed yet, and that kind of stuff. How much fun is that? And again, how much of that is you just messing around and then seeing if they'll allow that or get away with it, and how much of it is, hey, could you drop this in the background? We want to try and like do a teaser. Like, how does that work?
It's kind of spontaneous. Also, it's essentially, it'll be like
someone needs to be in that little hole in the background of the wall behind Nemesis Immortal, for example.
So that specific one was literally, as I was shooting it, I at that time I didn't have anything specifically in hand to tease, but I literally pointed it out to everyone, and I was like, hey, there's like a perfect little window of light to just stick a figure to tease you guys with. We should do something. And then Lenny and the team came up with, oh, let's use this figure. That'll be perfect for that.
While we're talking about that quickly, is that specific one, are you like adding that in like a CGI way, or are you literally taking that shot so far away? That's how far away that figure is.
That's how far away. The figure is there.
Big is your freaking studio to be able to do that?
It's pretty big. Because we have a nice size space. It's not as far as you think it is, but it is
certainly not as far as I think it is, because it looks like about a mile away. That one.
It is far, and that was the other reason why when I noticed that, I was like, ooh, there's some figures that you guys have missed, not as teasers, but of just me doing things like that to show you the scale of the diorama, to be like, this is physically there. For example, in the shoot, I'm forgetting his name, Falcon with the wings. That was Raptor with the wings. There's the shot of him flying over the cliff. He's just in the air, wings are spread out completely. If you look on the cliff, you can see other figures climbing on the cliff. They're there. No one noticed them. They're figures from that wave. It's Alpine. Like that whole thing is real. They're all the way to the background with the trees.
Unbelievable.
I was on a safety ladder shooting that one. I was pretty high.
Really? That's amazing. That's. I mean, I would love. Have you ever done like a shot of? I never noticed Storm Shadow on there either. That is nuts.
Yeah. So like, they are physically there. Now zoom out.
And that's the thing. It's like, I'll do this on literally with but there you go. I've seen that picture about 500 times, never noticed Storm Shadow or Alpine over there in the dark. That's crazy. Are there any more on there?
I don't specifically remember others, but that was one where I was like, oh man, nobody noticed, because I wanted people to know that that was a real.
You guarantee there'll be people in the comments going, I noticed, I mentioned it, I said it. So you'll
I
probably
never saw anyone point that out.
That's brilliant. Honestly, that's so cool. I did not think I'd be finding another cheeky little. It's not really an Easter egg because they're in the wave, but you know what I mean. Like the fact they were there to show scale. Unreal.
So I usually try, especially when I do a dio that's really big, that I'm just like, I want people to know that this is physically here. Like,
that's amazing.
That's the size. You know, it's not a camera trick or completely a perspective trick. Like, it's there.
Because coming back to the Nemesis Immortal one, is that done in a way to make it look like the cave is just like an opening that you can kind of see, but it doesn't go all the way to that hole, if you know what I mean? Is there like do you kind of play with perspective there to sort of have the figure in the distance, but the actual cave itself isn't that long? Because I can't imagine.
It's that long. I build my so I have it's that long, but the ceiling of the cave is probably only like a foot or something like that, and it's just like you only see that part, so it's all you need for, and probably all the pieces that I had on hand to make a ceiling. I build my dios in a way, I call it like 3 lanes. Taking the idea from video games, from like multiplayer games. Just so that I just have like these different lanes to photograph, and you know, I can cross from one lane to another and just get all these different angles that will make one diorama look like a bunch. Because there, you know, with G.I. Joe, I could be shooting 5, 6 different figures, and maybe all of them are on that same diorama. So I don't want it to get stale.
Right.
It's just like the poses are different, the figures are different, but they're always in the same spot.
Yeah.
So I really try to spread it out as much as I can.
Change the angle of like kind of make it like a 360 sort of environment rather than just like,
It's usually still shooting from the front. Like I rarely will walk around. It does happen once in a while. Like the recent Trench Viper, right, with the modular.
Yeah.
Like that one, I did come to the sides on occasion of the diorama to show into the trench that I built. Like
that was cool.
One of them on the ladder, but usually it's just different angles from the front.
Were there any Easter eggs in those images? Because I think it's just Heavy Duty and Trench Viper from what I could remember or gather.
I don't think there were any Easter eggs in that one.
There was a lot of talk about that gun turret in the background, though. Is that something that was just set dressing?
That's something you guys have seen before. That was built. That's set dressing. That was built by another photographer who does social media on occasion, specifically Scott. Cool. He did like a year or so back. You remember they did the comic book cover recreations? Yeah. So he did those, and that piece is in there along with some like the bunker. So I'll always grab those off of his desk because they're just
brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, so that's good to know, because that will answer a lot of questions for a lot of people. I got a lot of messages myself saying, "What's this? Is this new? Are they doing an HQ?" And I'm like, I doubt it. I don't think so. I think it's just set dressing. But no, that's amazing.
Yeah, so
that's great.
That's why I was like pushed. I mean, I push things in the background that are Easter eggs, so that doesn't really matter, I guess. But I've used that several times at least in photos. So I figured people would be like, okay, that's that same piece, but. Maybe not.
What's been your favorite Easter egg so far that the fans didn't get right and then were surprised? Because the one I'm thinking of is Clutch and his vamp environment, where you had the ferret scout in the background. Because so many people, even though the ferret was in there as well in a couple of the shots, a lot of people weren't expecting that particular driver, and a lot of people saying they thought it was the Stinger driver and all that kind of stuff. That one always stuck out to me as one where I thought the fandom were like a little bit off on that one. But again, we got the Ferret Scout eventually, and that was a fun one to kind of dip in there. Are there any for you?
I mean, that one was a fun one because they were all fun because I love watching you guys speculate. I know the rest of the team does.
Sweating.
I'll get messages from people be like, oh, they think it's this one.
Yeah.
You know, so it's fun to watch the speculation. That specific, the ferry driver was a fun one, because then when we did the actual reveal of it, I made sure to put her in the same pose, in like a front and center photo that she was all the way in the background.
Yeah.
So that was a fun one. I don't know if any one specifically pops out. Maybe the original, what was it? The Arctic bats was probably, because that's where it started.
The Arctic bat was a good one, because what I really loved about that, it was obvious because it was like well in the shot, and it wasn't like, you know, hidden, distant, hard to make out, that kind of thing. But we had Lenny and Emily on the show, and they and Emily kind of revealed that was an official figure that was coming, so that was nice.
I remember people were speculating that it was something that I made.
Yeah, like a custom or something. Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting, because I don't know if that's ever been done before. Right. You know, I don't know. I guess maybe like that the weapon emplacement that we were just talking about. Yeah. Maybe like, I guess that's another example of it. So I saw that and was just surprised that people were thinking it was a custom. I know we hadn't done like Easter eggs yet, but I was just like, oh, okay, all right, that's an interesting take on it, I guess.
Whose idea was it to start doing Easter eggs? Was that like a marketing thing, or how did that come about?
God, I don't remember. I think Emily or Lenny would remember. It was probably a little bit of all of us, because me coming from like the hobby side of things,
right.
You know, it's obviously it's a different way to do photography versus doing photography as an official reveal. What can we show? What can't you show? And I just, especially with G.I. Joe, you know, as world building, the figure line, I wanted to show figures together, you know, instead of just always isolated in just like their own promotional images, essentially. Right. And I had done in the past little, like really far in the background, no one's going to see this kind of images. Like, they're so out of focus. Like, there's an image of CoverGirl, and behind her, you know, it was kind of like a dungeon-y dio that I did. Yeah. And behind her is the red bat in, like, kind of peeking out from behind a door. Brilliant. But I don't think anyone can even tell that it's there without having been there and watching me place it in the diorama. So
you do realize we're gonna be poring over every photo you've ever taken now, just to see if there's anything we've missed. Because this is the thing, like the fandom is like this, man. They get deep into this stuff, and they'll be picking out all of the different. They'll be saying, Chris, why didn't you ask about this one? Why didn't you ask about that one? One I will mention though is, did you have anything to do with the Python Crimson Guard very sneakily showing up in Bazooka's background? It was really subtle, but you could see like the color, you know, the yellow and the gray and everything, and you could kind of make out that was a Crimson Guard with the weapons.
In the jungle?
Yeah, it was a jungle shot. It was a jungle shot, and it was really hidden well. Oh, the other one, I'm not sure if you have anything to do with, because obviously there's a lot of packaging and stuff like that. But
okay, red shirt Bazooka. Yeah, yes, that's my photo. Yeah,
brilliant. So again, that was a nice little way of hiding the Python Crimson Guard there as well. I love that.
Yeah, and that was when we were like ramping up more of like the Easter eggs, of being like, oh, like especially seeing how well everyone reacts to them, and just enjoying watching you guys, like, you know, pour over the images and try to find stuff,
pulling out random characters from like
I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was 100% a time where there was like a rock in the background that people.
Oh, that was me. That was me thinking it was the snake armor in the background.
Maybe.
It was. I guarantee I know what you're talking about, and it was Night Force, Pursuit, Cycle, and Shockwave, and it was basically the little cave there next to, and the trees that are around it. I was looking at it going, yeah, that looks like something. And then jokingly, it's become an in-joke of me seeing snake armors in the background of everything.
Okay, yeah. So, but that's happened like once or twice.
There's a lot where it's just a rock, and it's like, yeah, that ain't anything. What are you talking about? That's brilliant, man. That's so much fun. Yeah, the packaging. So you know how like sometimes you'll Do you have anything to do with that? Because sometimes there are like images of the figure in a background and stuff like that, or is that all digitally rendered?
Those are all digital renders.
Okay.
I'm not sure who the artist is that does that. They do amazing work. I love seeing those also. They're really, really
cool. Yeah,
but I'm not sure who's actually doing those. But
no worries.
I hope they keep doing them because they're awesome.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you had anything to do with that, because obviously there was a shadow tracker in the background of I think Range Viper or someone like that. I forget who it was now, but there was what looked like a cheeky shadow tracker in the background.
We're just competing for who can put the most Easter eggs.
Who can drop the most homages and Easter eggs and hidden secret gems in there. Anyway, dude, thank you so much for joining. It's been great chatting with you. I've already taken up too much of your time today. We want to have you back on though, if you'd be cool for that. Just want to like get into more of these little details. I want to talk more about like your process and the techniques that you kind of employ. Obviously, we've run a little bit over time here, but I'd love to have you back on to talk about that, mate. Yeah,
definitely. This was a lot of fun. It's fun to talk to you and talk about this.
We'll see you tomorrow then. Just kidding. Yeah, thank you so much, dude. Can tell everyone where people can find you in the kind of social department.
I mean, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Shooting the Galaxy. For the most part, I would always say go to my Instagram because the Twitter and Facebook is just copying that. I focus on Instagram mostly.
Links in the description as well if you want to jump on those guys as well. Definitely, dude. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me, mate. Like I would say, like this one's been a long time in coming, and a lot of the fans have been requesting me to talk to you because, like, I know a lot of the people that follow us are toy photographers. You know, we know some absolute genius toy photographers. I'm going to shout a few of them out. Paul at Plastic Battles, of course. Brian Hickey, our very own Brian Hickey. He does amazing work as well for the all the books, the Total Toy books, and all that kind of stuff. I think a lot of people wanted to hear from you specifically today, so it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you very much, man.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun. I can't wait to be back.
See you next week. That's it for this installment of the Full Force Redacted. Thank you to my wonderful guest, Matthew Cohen, aka Shooting the Galaxy. See you next time. And as always, I think you know what to do here, buddy. After 3, 1, 2, 3.
Full Force!
Amazing.
Access granted.
Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on X, formerly Twitter, @The Full Force, liking the Facebook page, facebook.com/The Full Force. We've also added a brand new Instagram, so check us out there as well @The Full Force Podcast, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on any of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/The Full Force Podcast, or click on the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.
Access granted.